Mayong aga sa aton tanan. Subong padayon kita sa ikaduwa nga mensahe for the part 2 sa Exodus series naton. At sining aga aton passage na focus would be from 17 up to 20. Medyo lawig siya. And I encourage you to really read the chapters yourself. Hindi ko ni isa-isa. In fact, you can do a lot of sermons here from this whole passage. Pero aton lang nga i-focus sa sininga aga is 19, 4 to 6. And then we will go through each of the parts. Kagining 19, 4 to 6 tells us that God is making a nation. Let me read it for you. You yourselves have seen what I did to the Egyptians and how I bore you in eagle's wings and brought you to myself. Now therefore, if you will indeed obey my voice and keep my covenant, you shall be my treasured possession among all peoples, for all the earth is mine, and you shall be to me a kingdom of priests and a holy nation. These are the words that you shall speak to the people of Israel. Ang initial verses, amo ni siya ang pull together sang tanan topics from chapter 17 to chapter 20, the last part of chapter 17 and the first part of chapter 20. Kasi ning aga atong talupang doon that as we continue to struggle, God continues to work in us. We will see, and we shall see, ang purpose sa pagtawag sa Ginoo sa iyang mga katawhan is to make a nation. So aton nga direction is like this. We will look at the passage here, paano Ginoo ginform ang ininga nation. Kagtanawon naton 4 things. Number 1, ang iyang military. Number 2, ang iyang structure or ang iyang form sa government, ang iyang king, kag ang iyang laws. These are the 4 things sa ininga nation. And then as we move on towards the end, makita naton nga ang ining passage was also quoted in 1 Peter chapter 2. Na si Peter nagsiling that you are a chosen nation, but he was talking to a different group of people. So nag-continue ni siya the idea of God making a nation. Una gid talupang doon naton ang military, chapter 17. Ang first dire nga part, first point is that ang ilang military was God's design nga ang iyang mga katawan will be prepared for war. When we say prepare, God is preparing them for war. You can see, I think you can read chapter 13, nga wala sila ginpaagi sa Ginoo into a quicker road, kung tanawon mo ang mapa, which is the way of the Philistines, that's what it is called. Diri sa kilid sa mga baybayon. Pero nag-agi sila, which is actually palayo sa promised land through the wilderness. Kag ang Ginoo, ginimo niya ini so that pagsunod nila ginambal niya nga gina-prepare ko sila for war. They will not be prepared for war because going into the promised land means they're going to conquer it. So the military is necessary. So muli siyang first time nga makita naton diri nga may nakipag-away sila. And the first mention here of Joshua the general. Ang natabo diri, ginpatawag ni Moses si Joshua, kag ginpapili niya sa mga tao kag makipag-away sila sa mga Amalekites. You can read Deuteronomy 25. Please note the chapters that I mentioned. Hindi ko na mabasa sa inyo. It's quite long. Bakit ninyo dira sa Deuteronomy chapter 25 nga ang Amalekites mga ni sila gina-take nilang opportunity. Gin-take nilang opportunity because these people are now hired sa ilang pagpanglakaton. So liputon nila sa likod at mamatcho nilang dito sa likuran na part. And that's a comment that Moses made in Deuteronomy chapter 25 in recount yang ining story. And ang ginimo diri is that Joshua with his men fought the Amalekites. But what is so interesting is not only did Joshua fight the Amalekites, ang natabo si Moses together with Aaron and Hur, nagsaka sila sa bukid, kag Moses stretched out his hands. And anong meaning ng stretching out of the hands? They were interceding actually. Wala din mention ng prayer. No? They were interceding for the people. Ang clue is found in Exodus chapter 9 when Moses stretched out his hands and interceded in behalf of Pharaoh para ma-stop ang hail. So amo nang aton nga idea nga ginawa that when Moses stretched his hands, ang nakatabo na gadaog ang armies, but kung ginakapoy siya, nagapanaog ang iyang kamot, and so Aaron and Hur has to help him stretch. So there were two battles fought. Ara dira sa dalom, the physical warfare, kag ara sila sa spiritual. Nagapangamuyo sila samtang nakipag-away ang mga soldado dira sa dalom. So this nation has a military force. Pero ang ininga military is dependent on those who are interceding for them. So duwa, no? It is both applying the strength, the dynamics of applying the strength, and at the same time, kabaluga nga ang ina nga strength nagahalin, my source, no? They were dependent on God. And they won, and here, another name for God, we hear, the Lord is my banner. It is around, it is a pole, no? Pag siling kita, no? The Lord is my banner. It is around Him that we gather together to fight. It is in the name of the Lord. So, ininga nation, makit-anda na karon kung paano ni siya nag-change along the way. My military. Number 2, ang ininga nation, my structure. Chapter 18 is not only talking about the structure. Ang first part ng chapter 18, please read this yourself. Ang first part ng chapter 18, nagkit-anay liwat si Moses, ang iyang father-in-law nga si Jethro, kag ang iyang family. By the way, si Zipporah, ginpabalik niya. Why? Takabalo kung saan niya ginpabalik. But during this time, in chapter 18, ginsugata siya liwat sang iyang father-in-law kag sang iyang family. I just want you to picture out Moses, no? Nga nakita niya, nag-reunion siya, nakita niya iyang bata, duwa ka bata, kag nag-remind sa iya, ang iyang mga kabataan, that I was a foreigner, but the Lord has delivered me from the hands of Pharaoh. That's Gershom and Eliezer, respectively. Kag dito ginistorya niya sa kay Jethro kung ano ang natabo. Now, please note, it is in the same place, in nga area, not specific area, no, where God revealed Himself to him in a burning bush. Kag kung nakadumdum ka mo sa chapter 3, nagpakilala ang Ginoo that He is the great I am, gintawag niya si Moses, kag ano ang sign nga ginhatag niya sa kay Moses, nga siya gid man ang ginpatawag. If you can still remember that sermon, ang hambal sa Ginoo sa iya, chapter 3, you can read that. This is the sign nga ikaw ang ginpatawag ko. Kung ang mga tao, mga katawan makuha na, kag they will worship me in this mountain. Ang promesa sang Ginoo during this time, chapter 18, na-realize na ako gid gali ang gitawag sang Ginoo, makita niya ang katawhan sang Ginoo is a picture na ang Dios nga nagtawag sa iya was faithful to bring these people out of Egypt. And this is now the nation. This is now the fulfillment of what God called me to do, what God told me He is going to do for His people. And this is now the nation. Ang structure follows on the day after na nakita ni Jethro si Moses, nagaano ka? He was actually dealing with every concern sa kada tao nga nagapalapit sa iya. You remember, nagligat, share ko sa inyo, that the population of Bacolod is 600,000 and Dili, 600,000 men. Agunta na unin mo, and if Moses deals with them one by one, with every problem they have, siya do ka burdensome. So ano ang gitubra ni Jethro? Siling niya, hindi amo na. Mangita ka sa tao, ngita ka sa mga kalalakian, nga mag-decide sa mga small matters. He called them elders, he called them chiefs. That they could be chiefs of thousands, hundreds, 50s, and 10s. So that ikaw ang imuon mo, let me read it for you. Here is my advice to you. Look for able men from all the people, men who fear God, who are trustworthy, and hate a bribe. Kag sila ang imo nga ibutang to be in charge of thousands, hundreds, fifties, and tens. Let them judge the people. Every great matter they shall bring to you, but small matter they can decide for themselves. Para hindi buhat sa imo. Pero ang imo nga obrahon, ikaw ang ma-represent sa mga katawan, that's verse 19, before God and bring their cases before God. So what is the structure of this nation? Theocracy, not democracy. Theocracy. God rules, and then may ara ikaw dira no nga leader, that's Moses. Kag ang laws ang Ginoo through Moses, kag ini siya pakadto ni siya sa mga leaders, thousands, hundreds, 50s, and 10s. And sa mga magagmay nga bagay, sila ang nag-decide. In great matters, ikaw ang mag-decide. Paminsan ko, no? Kung nagatanaw pa sa news, dumudamok sa mga reklamo. Dumudamok sa mga pagkinumot when it comes to nga-amuni. And some of these stories are true. I think some of these stories are made up. In a sense, nga may mga taong na mahambal na, kami nakabaton, kami o sila, mas manggarano ba, nakabaton, and so on and so forth. Kung tanawin mo, no, this nation here is ruled by God. And this leader here is so godly that he only does what God says to him. Pero, ang tao nagakumot yapon. Now, this tells us that the problem is not the form. This tells us that the problem is really the heart. Hindi, ang nag-provide sa ila ang Ginoo, hindi DSWD. Ang nag-provide sa ila, potent king. Ang nag-lead sa ila was a godly man. Pero ang bunga, kumot. So, I think we can see that it's not the form. It's really in the hearts of men. So, ginhatag ni siya nga form. By the way, this is in preparation sa paghatag sa mga laws ni Moses. Tanawon niyo ang pag-create sa Ginoo sang ininga nation. Military, and then gitagaan niya sang structure. God, Moses, and these able men. Trustworthy, na wala nagabaton sa bribe. That's the second point. Third point, we will look at the king. We will look at the king. Who is this king? On the third, chapter 19, on the third new moon, after the people of Israel had gone out of the land of Egypt, they set out from Rephidim into the wilderness of Sinai. Si Moses nagsaka kag amo ni ang ginbasa na akong kagina. Now, please note that ang ginhimo sang Ginoo sa ila by making them into a nation was started by grace. I will describe to you who this king is. Let me look at my notes. Who this king is. First yet, makita natin dali that this king is mighty and merciful. You yourselves have seen what I did to the Egyptians. Imagine nyo lang na, no? Kabalo ka mo kung anong ginimo ko sa mga Egyptians. Kag wala kamo dito nakipag-away. This is not the same as as what Joshua did. Why kamo nakipag-away? No? Ako tanan ang naghimo. Now, please note that this is all by God's power and grace. Hindi kamo. Ako ang nagpahatag sa inyo no, sa Passover lamb. Ako ang nagpagwa sa inyo sa Egypt. In fact, nangayo kamo sa mga Egyptians and you plundered their goods. Ako ang nagpatabok sa inyo sa Red Sea. Ako ang nag-crush sa mga Egyptians. Ako ang Diyos that bore you on eagle's wings. Did carry ta kamo on eagle's wings. Kanami nga picture. I brought you up of eagle's wings. And I brought you. Please note. Malipatan nyo lang talang niya verses. Don't forget this. Verses 4 to 6. I brought you to myself. This is the fulfillment sa ginhambal sa Ginoo sa chapter 6 sa Exodus. The same book, I brought you to myself. God is mighty, yet God is merciful. This king is mighty, this king is merciful. And this king demands obedience. Now, therefore, if you will indeed obey my voice, hindi naton pwede baliskaron ang sequence. Ang obedience, kita nga mga gintawag sa Ginoo are called to obedience. But obedience, nagaabot lang, ginatawag kita to obedience because we have received grace. Wala kita nag-obey to receive grace, but because we have received grace, now we are called to obedience. Isang ginatunan ko nino, this is the new king. This is the king that has saved you. Kag gina-contrast ko siya sa old king. Look at Pharaoh. Did Pharaoh demand obedience? Yes. Ano ang pamaagi ni Pharaoh para ma-obey ang ining mga katawhan? By power. Hindi ka magpati, i-oppress siya pagid. Hindi ka mo magpati, hindi ka mo pagtagaan. Tan-awon ta, no? Mangkamumangita sa material. Gina-oppress niya by his power. Ginadunot niyang ining mga katawan, and the motivation to obey is fear. Hindi ka magpati, amuning matabo sa imo. Nung natiguhot ka, anong amuning matabo sa imo? Taskmasters. Pero talawa, no? This chapter tells us that this king is different. Obey. Keep my covenant. Buti ningon ang covenant, ara ng kadaan. It is for you to keep. And ang covenant na ginahambal niya, amunin siyang ginahambal ko sa inyo sang una. The covenant that I have made with your fathers or forefathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. You are my treasured possessions among all peoples. You shall be to me a kingdom of priests. May topic kita sa mga priests diri sa Exodus, but actually paghambal niya sini ang iya nga panawagan sa tanan ng mga Israelites. You know what a priest is? Ikaw ang nagapatunga sa Diyos kag sa iban na tao. That's essentially what a priest is. Pero hindi lang yan ang mga priests lang yan. You are a nation of priests. Karon makita pa gid na, no? In the New Testament, how this image is picked up. So this king calls forth obedience. This king is mighty, yet merciful. This king calls forth obedience. This king speaks. Ang chapter 19 is one of the important chapters in the Bible because dili mo makita kung sinfo ni siya nga Diyos. The Revelation kung sinfo ni ang Ginoo. Nakipaghambal siya, no? Gintawag niya ang mga elders, ginabalan sa Ginoo kung anong hiyangay mo. Siling niya, Moses, i-prepare mo mga tao, I am coming to you in a thick cloud. Now, please note, this is not the first time. They had already experienced the pillar of cloud and the pillar of fire. See, Moses on this mountain, somewhere around this place, na-experiensyahan niya ang burning bush. But this time, it's not going to be a burning bush. It's going to be a burning mountain. For all the people to see. See, Moses, may vision siya. Ang Ginoo nagtawag sa iya. This time, it's the whole nation. So, hindi lang si Moses. Gusto ko kamuman, makita nyo, makilala nyo kung sino ni sa ang Diyos nga nagtawag sa inyo. Prepare these people, go to the people, consecrate them today, be ready on the third day. Okay, on the third day, please note these words. I will come down. I will come down on Mount Sinai in the sight of all the people. Note the phrase, come down. I will descend in a smoke. You will read that later. I will come down from the top of Mount Sinai. This is what the combination makes God awesome. Grabe kakosam, no? Dugay-dugay pa sa akong kukunan, ng kakosam, anong natabo diri sa bukid. It's not just the burning bush, this is now the burning mountain. But I want you to see that God came down. Kagabi ka pumati po wali ni Tim Keller, and he mentioned the ziggurats in the pyramids, and even the pyramids in Egypt. Ano ang sense na mo ng ilang shape? With all of these, ang mga ginahimo, ano ko nagasimba, sige no, may amo kita sa mga structure. Ano ni siyang pictures in the structure? May mga tao lang nga worthy. Kang hindi nga mga tao nga mga worthy, sila ni ang masaka para paglambot nila dito sa babaw, malambot nila kag makuha nila kung ano ang gusto sa Ginoo para sa ila. Only in the Christian faith you will see that God comes down. God descends to His people. Sa iyang pagkadako, no? This is the combination of might and mercy. He comes down to His people. Tan-awa ko ano ang natabo, no? Nga ang pa consecrate, nga ang pa set sang Ginoo ang limits. You will touch the foot of the mountain. Gina-imagine ko kung diinan siya na yun, no? Paano nilaging kurita, diinan ang kurit, no? When you touch it, you will die. Duwa ka bagay mga kauturan, ang Ginoo nagpupod sa ila, ang Ginoo nangin sa ila, ang Ginoo nagprovide sa ila, and I think this is also our problem. We think that because God became one of us, we think that God is us. That's not true. He became one of us, but God remains God, and we are not. There can only be one Him. Hindi pwede, no? Because God is like this, we think that ang Diyos, amuni siya, si God is amuni, I think it was C.S. Lewis who was saying, if God is impersonal, that's good. If God is a force, that would be best. But if you look at the God of the Bible, He is terrible. There is a sense of terribleness sa Ginoo. Talawang natabo sa mountain, no hand shall touch him, bisan pa sapat ang makatandog dira mapatay gid. Whether beast or man, he shall not live. Kag mag-sound ang trumpet, si Moses will go up the mountain. And so Moses went down to the people and consecrated the people. And then be ready for the third day. Kag sang aga on the third day, there were thunders, lightnings, thick cloud on the mountain, and a very loud trumpet blast, verse 14, so that all the people in the camp trembled. And then Moses brought the people out of the camp. They took their stand at the foot of the mountain. Now Mount Sinai was wrapped in smoke, because the Lord has descended on it in fire. The smoke of it went up like the smoke of a kiln, and the whole mountain trembled greatly. Kaya nagtunog pagit ang sound ng trumpet, and God answered him in the thunder. The Lord came down on Mount Sinai to the top of the mountain, and the Lord called Moses to the top of the mountain. Grabe ang visual. Maybe, just maybe, minsan lang po, no? In the advent sa aton nga grabe nga mga special effects mo. Nga shadow kapino, shadow kanami. And sometimes when we see things like this, though, okay, special effects. This is real. Cloud, thunder, lightning, and then God is about to speak. Here is a king who speaks. By the way, in Exodus, this is the first time God is going and about to speak to His people directly. Never! Wala siya nagpakighambal directly. It was always through Moses. And now I'm going to speak. They trembled. Makibot ka mo when you read Hebrews chapter 12, that even Moses, you don't read it here, even Moses was afraid. I trembled. the mountain shook. Pero ang pamangkot, amo nimo. Kung amo ni makita nimo, amo ni ang expression sa presensya sa Ginoo. This is not a burning bush. This is the burning mountain. God decides, God descends, and God is about to tell His people what His laws are. Who is this king? Pero makita mo niya po ng iyang grasya. Because sinabala niya si Moses, go down and warn them na hindi sila magpalapit lest they die. Makita nito anong implications nito? God can only be approached according to His own terms. Religion, our religion, all man-made religions are means by which we want to approach Him. So diin kita nagasugod kita by forming our own theology. And I think this is who God is, and because this is who God is, this is how we are going to approach Him. And we have made God according sa aton nga imagination. When you approach the God of the Bible, He says, you can only approach me in my own terms. Nakita nyo kaginang iya kaluoy? Nakita nyo kaginang kung paano niya ginkip ang iya mga katawan? Nakita nyo sa nagligad kung paano niya gin-provide ang iya mga katawan? But God is not your grocery man. Provider si God gali. Tagaan na sa listahan, tagaan niya ka na. Sa imo nga tagaan nga gusto. God is not like that. There is a sense of terribleness. There is a sense that God is terrifying if you know Him for who He is. That's why ang approach sa Ginoo mga kauturan is not according to what you want to approach Him. The approach is according to His own terms. You touch the foot of the mountain, bisan sapat ka, you will die. This king is holy, this king is great, this king is mighty, but yet this king is merciful. Makadto kita sa last point, which is the laws. The army or the military, ang structure, nakita natin ang king. This is what the nation that God is making looks like. And finally, anong ilang constitution? Anong ilang laws? Sadya, no? Every time nag-mention kita sa mga kasubuan, I don't know kung na-notice mo sa imong kaugalingon, nga every time I mention ang kasubuan, the first thing that comes to mind is not obedience. I don't know if that's true for you. Sa ako, no? The first thing that comes to mind is, sino lang ba na? Ginang-question mo ang authority. Okay, hindi ka mo makagawa na wala face mask. Mo ginayaw. Gina-question mo ang authority, tapos gina-question mo ano ang purpose ng sinang law. Ang aton nga heart, no? Every time maipakita ang law, ang first hit, di na siya naghalin. Sino naghambal na? Ano ginang iyang agahom sila? And that's not just natural. Like number two, ano ginatuyo na silang law? Here we see that before God gave the 10 Commandments, ginpakita niya kay Ginamos, chapter 19, I have already saved you, and the means to obedience is through these laws. But kung naintindihan mo ang grasya sa Ginoo, obedience becomes something that makes you joyful. Kung mabalik kita sa kay Pharaoh, obedience will kill you. Obey ko yan kayo. Kung hindi ko mag-obey, wala ko karon kalangon. This is drudgery. Ginaguyod mo lang ang self mo, no? Kung makita niyo mo kung sino gid ang Diyos, ang obedience nimo naga-change. Nagalain ang puno sa imong obedience. Before the laws were given, ano ang hambal niya? God spoke all these words saying, by the way, you need to know that these words, the 10 Commandments, were spoken by God to Moses and to the people. Nabatian nila tanan, words from the fire. Amuna ang 10 Commandments. Mismo ang Ginoo ang nakipaghambal sa ila. Pero ang sugod-sugod, tanawa, I am the Lord your God who brought you out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of slavery. Diin nagasugod ang obedience. It's in our relationship. Because ang grasya sa Ginoo nagluwas sa imo, the Lord is calling us to obedience. We are not, again, I cannot overemphasize, we are not called to obey to be saved. We are saved. Therefore, we obey. We are already accepted. Hindi ko ni maisa-isa sa inyo ang Ten Commandments. I hope I can touch on this again next Sunday, because ang mga specific laws next Sunday is actually the specifics of what the commandments here are. Ipakita ko na nung big division niya. Mga kauturan, ang moralidad, this is very important, ang moralidad wala nagasugod horizontally. Okay, kadong mo sa aton, anong himuon na aton? Horizontal. Magsiling kita horizontal, man to man. Hindi ka mo magamuna. Ang himuon naton para may kalinong ang kalibutan. Morality does not start horizontally. So that isa ka adlaw nagbugtaw kita do kagamo sa kalibutan, we will settle things like this. Amo ni himuon ta, amo ni aton nga. If you limit morality horizontally, you will end up relativizing every moral code. Anong bot siniman sinabi? You want an example? Sino sa inyo ang hindi dapat tagaan sang amelioration pero nagkuha kamo? Kay ano ang rason? Kay ang iban nagkuha man. Si ano gani nagkuha man? Ini nga mga fans nga para sa pigado, kilala ko na si Juan sa barangay da, pwede ko nakakuha da. Bisan ako nagakita, may sweldo ko, kay teacher mo ko, bisan wala klase during summer, may sweldo ko. Pero galing, may amelioration kag pwede kita kaagi sa muni kay daw hindi gid man siya sala, simply because ang iban nagkuha man. May kilala mo ganito manggaranon man pero nakakuha man. What's the point? What's the idea? When you start morality horizontally, you will always end up relativizing. Mangakig lang ko kung ako wala nakakuha kay sila nakakuha, not simply because it is moral, but simply because ina-compare kung kaugalingon ko sa iba. At amo na siya ang standard sang moralidad. So, gina-compare na ito ng ato niya kaugalingon. Yes, nakasala ko, pero hindi man kuya amo na ka makasasala compared sa ilala sa ibanda. Kaya wala kuya ga amo ni. You see the picture? That's the picture of horizontal morality. But in the Bible, you will see that morality starts vertically. So that, bisan pa, himuon nimo, by the way, the division is 1 to 4, and then 5 to 10. The first 4, and then the last 6. The first 4 all refer to God. So that bisan mahimo nimo ang last 6, kung hindi nimo nahangpan ang first 4, you will end up with a rich young ruler, like the rich young ruler in Mark chapter 10. Nahimo niya na kuno ang tanan, pero he violated the essentials because he in fact made an idol sa iyang nahimo regarding sa mga kasubuan. You see, kung hindi mo makita ang first 4 that refers to no other gods. No representation. More of this when we go to Exodus chapter 32. Do not take my name in vain. Remember the Sabbath. All of this pertain to the vertical relationship. Kung ang moralidad, void sang vertical, wala man sang sense ang horizontal. Kung maintindihan mo ang vertical, may sense ang horizontal. Because ang akon pag-deal sa imo is dependent on how I know who God is. Kagamuni ang laws ng hanggang. You can please read this. It's quite long. I hope to discuss more of this next Sunday. Magkatuloy sa mga specifics ng laws. But tanaw na ito ng ending. When the people saw the thunder, verse 18, and lightning, the sound of the trumpet, the mountain smoking, the people were afraid and trembled. And they stood afar off. Ano siling nila? Moses said to the people, kanaming a person, do not fear, for God has come to test you, that the fear of Him may be before you, that you may not sin. There is a fear. Nagkuro ko nung parehas ang pagkakulba nila sa kay Pharaoh. But the fear of the Lord will cause you not to sin. There is this holy reverence, not only sa iyang agahom, pero sa iyang man nga kaluoy. Amo ni kagrabe ang Ginoo. Kagang iyang ending, no? The people stood afar off. Moses, ikaw na lang hambal sa amon. Hindi lang siya pahambala sa amon. They knew it. They saw it. And the people stood afar while Moses drew near to the thick darkness where God was. But what is this nation? Allow me to read 1 Peter chapter 2. I hope to do this quickly. 1 Peter chapter 2. Gin-quote ni siya ni Peter, but this time to a different group of people. Kagang ginhambal niya sa 1 Peter chapter 2 is almost the same. 1 Peter chapter 2 verse 9, but you are a chosen race, a royal priesthood, a holy nation, a people for His own possession. That's Exodus chapter 19. Pero ang iya nga ginahambalan, lain nga grupo sang tao. This is now a combination of Jews and Gentiles, so that, amo ni siyang natabo, in Exodus, it was the specific nation of Israel. But as we move along sa storya sang Bible, makita naton nga ang ini nga nation take shape. Now please note that the nation Israel was never pure. Exodus, there was mixed multitude. Hindi sila tanan. Later on, makita mo, Rahab became part. She was not a Jew. Kung magkato ka sa book of Esther, before magbato ang mga Jews against those nga magapatay sa ila, may mga tribes nga naghambal sila, we also want to be Jews. Pero sa Old Testament, hindi pa amon nakaklaro ang ini nga picture sa nation. But the Jews were never pure because there were already Gentiles introduced. When you go to 1 Peter chapter 2, ini sila included na ang tanan nga Christians, whether you are Jew or a Gentile. So this is now the fulfillment kung ano ni siya nga nation. Basahan niyo lang 1 Peter chapter 2 kay makita nimo na there is also warfare. I cannot do this one by one. No? Siling niya, once you were not a people, but now you are God's people. Just like the Exodus. You have not received mercy, but now you have received mercy. I urge you, abstain from the passions of the flesh, which wage war against your soul. There's a war. The war continues on. Kag there's a king, ano ang purpose natin? Live good lives. Kag ano ang purpose ng imong good life? That they will see your good deeds and glorify God on the day of visitation. Mga kauturan, the point of Exodus, the point of God making a nation in Exodus, is actually nag-form siya sa nation hindi lang from one race, but from many races, many peoples, many tongues, many languages. Ito mo na makita niyo yung book of Revelation. At sino ang aton na king? Sino ang king ng sininga nation? Jesus Himself. Pag makibut ka, that in this nation, we are actually asked to subject to earthly kings. And how did the early Christians fought the war? They fought it with their testimony. Kag na-shock ang Roman Empire. Nga bisan pa, amuning ginahimo sa ila, while sila nagabato, but they continued to bless the community. And the Christians were blessing the community. They were fighting a different war, not from hate against someone, but because they have received love from the Savior. It's a new nation. This is the fulfillment of the nation. Ang pamangkot sa sining aga is two things. Maybe not two questions, but two things. Number one, if you're listening and then you're asking yourself, what is that for me? Si Moses, ang ara siya sa bukid, sa nakipag-away si Joshua, was weary. Anong picture ni Moses? Moses was the intercessor. And then when you go to the New Testament, grabe no? Naghambal si Jesus, naghambal si Peter sa iya, Lord, hindi ka Lord mapatay. I think Luke chapter 22, and Jesus said, I have prayed for you, Peter. There's an intercessor here. I have prayed for you, Peter, so that kung ma-fail ka, you will be restored. Kaya ikaw man matubig sa inyong mga kauturan. When you go to Romans 8, you will also see that Jesus is interceding for us. The better mediator. Mediator nga wala na luya ang kamot. So that kung mahulog ang iyang kamot, you will be losing your war. There is an intercessor. There's a better intercessor. There is, in fact, a better intercessor. You go to Hebrews chapter 12. Kaya gin-quote niya ang the same story nga nag-shake ang mountain, nag-gin-quote niya kung ano ang cloud, dito ang fire, dito ang lightning, dito ang thunder. Pag-quote niya, pag-quote some authors in Hebrews, in Hebrews chapter 12, makita niyo mo no, that there is a better mediator for this covenant, and He is Jesus. Paano nga ang tao, wala sila napatay? Kung magtandog ka sa bukid, mapatay ka. Moses, you have to go down and tell them. And there's also a reason why there was cloud. The cloud covers the glory of God. In fact, si Moses mismo, no, hintago siya from the cleft of the rock. Exodus chapter 33. You cannot see my glory in you. Mapatay ka. Mga kauturan, ang Ginoo nagpadala sa iyang anak. The flesh is the cloud that shrouded His glory. So that He can walk with us. Hindi kita mapatay. Kag siya mapatay para sa atin. Siya ang napatay para sa inyo. He is the mediator. We cannot approach God. But this God came down in the flesh in the name of Jesus Christ. So that you can now be received by God because of what He did. Kung nagpapamati ka nito, and you still trust in what you can do, you still trust in your religion, you still trust on maybe the many things that you can do for the betterment of this world, and think that someday God will accept you, you will touch the foot of the mountain and you will die. God cannot be approached in your own terms. God can only be approached by His own terms. Pero bisan pa ang mo naka-terrifying sa Ginoo, He sent a mediator to die for you. Would you repent of your sins and turn and look at Jesus, the mediator God has given you? Ikadua, if you are a Christian, we have the lawgiver who was both the just and the justifier. Ano bala sa imo as a Christian ang kasubukan sa Ginoo? Is it a burden? Or is it a joy? Because naintindihan nimo ang relationship ninyo sa Ginoo. Let us take for instance, just simple lang, no? Simple as Bible reading. It becomes a drudgery kung makita nimo no, pinapilit na po. But when you look at how God speaks through His Word, and you want to know who this God is, it changes your perspective. Amo ni siya gamit, amo ni ginimo na. Sa pagkamatulog, when I study, sometimes there are just verses that come to me and they're not meant for sermons, but they, they build the spiritual life. Kagina towards the end, that verse really struck me that the people were standing afar off, but Moses came near. Why? The relationship is different. I want to be near. I want to be near this God. I don't just stand from afar. Okay, ma-witness na po, grabe ba? I don't want to be like that. I want to enter into it. If you are a Christian, the better mediator is Jesus. And he says, I will close with this. Hebrews chapter 12. Hebrews chapter 12. Silingyan. Kamu, verse 18, have not come to what may be touched, a blazing fire, darkness, gloom, and tempest, and the sound of the trumpet and a voice whose words made the hearers beg that no further messages be spoken. That's Exodus. For they could not endure that was given. If even a beast touches the mountain, it shall be stoned. Indeed, so terrifying was the sight that Moses said, I trembled with fear. But you have come to Mount Zion and to the city of the living God, the heavenly Jerusalem, to innumerable angels in festal gathering, and to the assembly of the firstborn who are enrolled in heaven, and to God, the judge of all, and to the spirits of the righteous made perfect, and to Jesus, the perfect, the mediator of the new covenant, and to the sprinkled blood that speaks a better word than the blood of Abel. Ginkuha sa author of Hebrews ang Exodus na picture, ginbutang niya si Jesus, the better mediator of the new covenant, even better than the voice of Abel. Actually, nag-libog ang ulo ko anong buot siningon sinan. I was helped when I was listening to another sermon by Keller about the blood of Abel. The blood of Abel was the blood because ginpatay siya ni Cain. Sining sa Ginoo, where is your brother Abel? Kaya nagambal si Cain, I don't know, am I my brother's keeper? Behold, the blood of your brother cries out from the ground. Ang dugo, ano na siya nga picture? It's a picture na ang napatay nila calls forth justice. The blood of Abel, ara sa ground. Anong ginahimo sa blood of Abel? Justice, justice. May ginpatay. But there is a mediator whose words are even better than the blood of Abel. Amen. When he died, he was not crying out on the cross, justice, justice. Why kuya sa lahat ng ipatay niyo po? He was not crying out, justice, justice. What was he crying out? Grace, grace, grace. Jesus, the better mediator, stronger than the words of the blood of Abel from the ground. His blood was crying out, grace, forgive them, for they know not what they do. Wala pa nag-end ng Hebrews 12. See that you do not refuse him who is speaking. Kinulbaan mo sa naghambal ito sa bukid? Refuse him not who is speaking. For if they did not escape when they refused him who warned them on earth, much less if we shall escape if we reject him who warns from heaven. This is the voice of Jesus. At that time, his voice shook the earth, but now he has pronounced, once more I will shake not only the earth, but also the heavens. This phrase, yet once more, indicates the removal of things that are shaken. That is, things that have been made in order that the things that cannot be shaken may remain. Therefore, kung Christian ka, therefore, let us be grateful for receiving a kingdom that cannot be shaken. And let us offer to God acceptable worship and reverence and awe, for our God is a consuming fire. The world is shaken, but the coming kingdom can never be shaken. And this is the kingdom we are to receive. We are part sa nation that God has made. We are His people by His grace. We live in obedience because of His grace. Magpasalamat kita sa inyo. Lord, kung ara kami dito siguro sa mountain, we will also tremble in fear, maybe die sa kapunbak nila. But there was a cloud. Nagsalamat, Lord, sa papadala mo sa kay Jesus, who descended, not just up to the top of the mountain, but descended to us, lived among us, ginshroud niyang iyang glory, and went on to die on the cross, the better mediator. Kabay pa, Lord, nga i-treasure siya naman. Kagkabay pa, Lord, ang imo nga mga kasubukan will not be seen as something kakapoy sundon, but when we realize that you are the God who brought us out from slavery by eagle's wings, makasiling kami, how lovely, how joyful it is to obey our King. Thank you, Lord, kaya include mo kami sa sininga nation. Ina-honor ka namin sa ngalan ni Jesus. Amen.